Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. Asterisk, the Toronto Blue Jays have a golden opportunity staring them right in the face. Folks, and what I'm about to reveal is going to blow your mind. While the Jays have made a ton of acquisitions this offseason through free agency, adding Dylan Cease, Shane Bieber, Kazuma Okamoto, and various other pieces, there is still room to improve this roster. And following some fascinating reports that have dropped recently, it's becoming increasingly clear that the most likely path for Toronto to add another impact player is through a blockbuster trade. There is a golden opportunity that has emerged surrounding one absolutely intriguing player who would be a perfect fit for this team, and I'm going to break down exactly who that player is, why this trade makes tremendous sense, and what kind of package it would take to get a deal done. You're going to want to stay tuned all the way to the end, because we're also going to discuss some very exciting prospect updates as we approach spring training. But before we dive in, you guys have been absolute beasts with your support, and it truly means the world to me. Now let's get into this. I'm going to be discussing a player today that I genuinely haven't spoken about on this channel before. It's at least not in the context of a potential trade target. There have been some rumors circulating on Twitter, some interesting speculation building. There's also a report from several months ago that's extremely relevant to this discussion. This report you're about to show me is from July 2025. Why does that matter now? Just bear with me here because it's telling a very important story. Back in July 2025, and even dating back to previous trade deadlines, the Pittsburgh Pirates were actively receiving trade calls about Oneil Cruz, and multiple sources reported that the Pirates were genuinely listening to those offers. Now, they didn't end up trading Cruz at the deadline, but credible reports came out from multiple insiders confirming that the Pirates were fielding serious inquiries and were at least open to moving him, if the right package came along. I remember covering the trade deadline extensively last year, and while I didn't specifically focus on Oneil Cruz rumors, it was clear that Pittsburgh was getting bombarded with trade requests for their young star. And here's where things get really interesting. Folks, people are now starting to talk seriously about Oneil Cruz potentially being traded to the Blue Jays. Think about the Pirates' organizational philosophy for a second. They're a team that historically doesn't spend significant money on extensions. They don't spend money in general compared to other organizations. They have an established pattern of trading their up-and-coming stars before they get too expensive. I saw this tweet that absolutely got my brain racing. I have a feeling the Blue Jays trade for someone like Oneil Cruz. He's someone that can be a really good hitter with a competent hitting coach, and Dave Popkins is absolutely perfect for that role. Nobody expected the Jays to trade for Andrés Giménez last year, and Oneil Cruz just makes sense. And you know what? I'm hugely high on Oneil Cruz as a player, and when I saw that speculation, I started thinking, wow, Cruz really does make a lot of sense, and it almost screams Blue Jays acquisition. So I did some background research, and here's what I discovered. The Pirates have absolutely been fielding calls on Cruz. Teams have been calling Pittsburgh asking about availability. And the Pirates have demonstrated a willingness to trade him if the right package materializes. Now let's look at his Baseball Savant page from last year, because this is where the buy low opportunity becomes obvious. Cruz is coming off what looks like a down year statistically with a 676 OPS, but look at those underlying peripherals. He either absolutely crushes the baseball or strikes out. There's no middle ground with this guy. He's legitimately one of the worst strikeout hitters in baseball, posting terrible K-rate numbers. But man, when he makes contact, he can absolutely demolish baseballs like few players in the sport. He has 100th percentile exit velocity, which means he hits the ball harder than literally anyone else in Major League Baseball. If there's any player that the Blue Jays could turn around, any hitter that Dave Popkins could unlock and transform into a superstar, it's Oneil Cruz. Following what was an incredible year for Popkins and the Blue Jays' offensive development last season, I have complete faith that if Toronto can get their hands on Cruz, assuming Pittsburgh remains open to listening to trade calls like they were last July, would do this deal in an absolute heartbeat. And even though Cruz's stats don't look impressive right now on the surface, this screams classic buy low opportunity. If you're the Pirates and you don't want to commit long-term money to Cruz, if you're looking to save financial resources down the line, this could make tremendous sense. Because when you examine his career statistics, Cruz really hasn't become the superstar that his tools suggest he could be. His best year was 2024, but even then, he only posted a 793 OP. He steals almost 40 bases annually, which is elite speed. The Pirates moved him to center field a couple years ago to maximize his defensive value. I absolutely love Oneil Cruz as a player, and his upside is truly tremendous. Look at his fielding metrics 100th percentile arm strength. This is a guy who I genuinely don't think would cost a massive prospect haul to acquire. You'd still have to give up quality pieces, obviously, but you wouldn't need to gut your entire farm system. The DAs could slide Cruz into left field and suddenly have an absolutely crazy outfield defensively, while also getting a player with transformational offensive upside that Dave Popkins can unlock. This is somebody who's on a downward statistical trend if you look at his numbers from last year, which creates a golden opportunity. The Blue Jays have to call Pittsburgh and gauge interest. The Pirates historically have been willing to trade everybody not named Paul Skeens. Now, Pittsburgh has made some efforts to improve their team, and I'm not saying they're definitely going to trade Cruz before the season starts. It's absolutely a golden opportunity worth exploring. Most Blue Jays fans I've seen discussing this idea absolutely love it, and I'm fully on board. We've been looking at other available outfielders like Brendan Donovan, but John Morosi recently reported the Cardinals will only trade Donovan if they're completely blown away by an offer. So Oneil Cruz represents a more realistic target who could provide similar or even greater upside. Sliding Cruz into left field would be unbelievably fun to watch. This player isn't necessarily a proven superstar yet, but he has all the intangibles to become one. He originally played shortstop where he showcased an unbelievable arm before moving to center field. 100th percentile arm strength. Near 100th percentile sprint speed. He's incredibly exciting to watch and would add significant power to this lineup. He's only 27 years old, stands 6'7", and weighs 240 pounds. It would be absolutely incredible. Here's a proposed trade framework I found. Nathan Luxius, Yusei Kikuchi, and Jake Bloss for Oneil Cruz. On paper, the value doesn't perfectly match, but the upside for Toronto would be enormous. You're essentially giving up a top 10 organizational prospect in Bloss. It's a solid starting pitcher in Kikuchi and Nathan Luxius. Now, I'll preface this by saying this package is probably a bit light from Toronto's perspective and would need adjustment. But as a framework, if you replace Kikuchi with maybe Jose Barrios to give Pittsburgh more rotation stability, and then add another mid-level prospect like Johnny King, that might actually get a deal done. Your Pirates would be getting Nathan Luxius, who had a better year last year than Cruz did, so that's an MLB-ready outfielder. Jose Barrios would provide them with a reliable starting pitcher. And then they'd get a top 5 prospect from the Blue Jays system in King, or someone similar. Would the Blue Jays actually do that deal? That's the critical question, but that's the type of package I would absolutely love to see explored, and I think it makes sense for both organizations. Give Cruz a competent hitting coach, one of the absolute best in baseball in Dave Popkins, based on last year's results, and you can legitimately turn his career around. It's not like Cruz doesn't do great things already. He's an elite defender with that incredible arm. He's a very good hitter in certain aspects of the game. If you can tweak his approach to reduce strikeouts even slightly, you're getting a player who can steal 40 bases, hit for massive power, and play elite defense. That's a potential superstar. This Blue Jays team is built heavily on contact hitting and not striking out excessively. So Cruz would represent a different profile. He's definitely not a contact hitter. He's a true outcome guy who either strikes out or crushes the baseball. But you add elite speed that the Jays don't currently have. They don't have anyone who can give them 40 stolen bases. You add someone who hits the ball harder than anyone in baseball. Yes, he strikes out a lot, but I think you live with that given everything else he brings. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. I would do this trade in a heartbeat, though maybe you'll disagree and call me crazy. I just absolutely love the upside of this move, and after doing research, I think it could be more realistic than fans expect. Quick prospect update. Keith Law just released his top 100 prospects list, and the Blue Jays have Trey Yesavage, JoJo Parker, and Arjun Nimala all ranked. Multiple analysts and scouts now agree that Toronto has at least 3, maybe 4, top 100 prospects in baseball. That's a very strong farm system that gives them flexibility to spend prospect capital on a trade for someone like Cruz. If you enjoyed this breakdown of why O'Neal Cruz makes perfect sense for the Blue Jays, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me if you'd make this trade. Let's go Blue Jays!